The stars had never looked so cold. Commander Danny Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Vanguard and watched the holographic display light up with red dots. Each dot was an enemy ship. There were so many that the display looked like it was bleeding. 812. That was the final count. 812 Valorian warships had surrounded the Sol system. They hung in the darkness like wolves circling wounded prey. And humanity was very wounded indeed. Danny was 43 years old. He had served in the Earth fleet for 20 years. He had seen battles before. He had lost friends before. But he had never seen anything like this. The Valorian hegemony had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had conquered hundreds of species. They had never lost a war. And now they had come for Earth. The bridge was quiet. His crew worked at their stations. But nobody spoke. What was there to say? They all knew the numbers. Humanity had 63 ships left. 63 against 800. It was not a battle. It was an execution. Lieutenant Commander Chris Yamamoto walked up beside Danny. Chris was his second in command and his oldest friend. They had served together for 15 years. Chris was usually the one who made jokes when things got bad. He was not joking now. The outer colonies are gone. Chris said quietly. Proxima. Kepler. New Shanghai. All destroyed. The survivors are still trying to reach Earth. But most of the evacuation ships did not make it. Danny nodded. He had already seen the reports. The Valorians had attacked without warning. They had smashed through humanity's defense like a hammer through glass. The combined fleet at Proxima had fought bravely. They had destroyed maybe 50 enemy ships before being wiped out. 50 out of 800. It barely mattered. What about the council? Danny asked. Still arguing, Chris said. Half of them want to surrender. They think the Valorians might show mercy. Danny almost laughed. He had seen what Valorian mercy looked like. He had seen the images from the colony worlds. The Valorians did not take prisoner. They did not make deals. They simply erased any species that stood against them. Surrender meant death. Fighting meant death. The only difference was how you chose to die. The communication station beeped. A young officer named Ryan Peters looked up with fear in his eyes. Commander, we are receiving a transmission. It is coming from the Valorian flagship. Put it through, Danny said. The holographic display flickered and changed. A face appeared. It was not human. The Valorians were tall and thin, with grey skin and eyes like black pools. They had no hair, no expression, nothing that looked like emotion. High Arbiter Zetox was their leader, and he stared at humanity with the cold patience of someone who had all the time in the universe. Humans of Earth, Zetox said. His voice was translated by computer, but it still sounded wrong. Too flat. Too empty. You have 6 hours to surrender unconditionally. All military force will stand down. All weapons will be destroyed. All leaders will present themselves for judgment. If you comply, some of you may be permitted to live as servants of the hegemony. If you resist, your planet will be reduced to ash. Your species will be erased from history. You will be forgotten. The transmission paused. Zetox tilted his head slightly, like a scientist studying an insect. No species has ever defied the hegemony and survived. He continued. Your mathematics are simple. You have 63 ships. We have 800. Resistance is not merely foolish. It is impossible. You have 6 hours. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. The bridge was silent again. Danny looked at his crew. Some of them were young, barely out of training. Some of them had families on Earth. All of them were afraid. He could see it in their eyes. But none of them were running. None of them were crying. They were waiting for orders. On Earth, the United Council was falling apart. Danny could imagine the scene. Politicians screaming at each other. Some demanding surrender. some demanding miracles. None of them understanding that there were no good choices left. There were only bad choices and worse choices. Then a new transmission came through. It was from her, from Admiral Katie Sullivan. She was the commander of what remained of Earth's Defense Force. Danny had met her once, years ago. She was a small woman with gray hair and hard eyes. She had lost her husband and son at the Battle of Proxima. She had nothing left to lose. All ships, This is Admiral Sullivan. Her voice came through clear and strong. I have just come from the council. There was a vote. The politicians wanted to surrender. I told them no. Danny felt something stir in his chest. It might have been hope. It might have been pride. He was not sure. We are not going to surrender. Sullivan continued. We are not going to beg. We are going to fight. I know the numbers. I know we cannot win. But I also know who we are. We are humans. We have been fighting impossible odds since we climbed down from the trees. We have survived ice age and plagues and wars. We have clawed our way to the stars with nothing but stubbornness and dreams. And I will be damned if we end our story on our knees. The bridge crew was listening now. Ryan Peters had tears on his cheeks, but he was smiling. All ships will prepare for battle. Sullivan said. We will make them pay for every inch they take. We will make them remember us. And if we have to die, we will die so loud that the whole galaxy hears it. Sullivan out. The transmission ended. Danny turned to Chris. His friend was pale, but there was something new in his eyes. Something that looked like fire. You heard the Admiral, Danny said. Prepare the ship for battle. Chris nodded. What do you think our chances are? Danny looked back at the display. 800 red dots. 63 blue ones. The math was simple. The math was impossible. I think, Danny said slowly, that the Valorians have never fought humans before. Not really. They have fought our ships and our weapons. But they have never fought us. They do not know what we are capable of when we have nothing left to lose. He turned to face his crew. They were watching him. Waiting. We have 6 hours, Danny said. Let us show them what humans can do. The 6 hours passed slowly. On Earth, people gathered in the streets. They held hands with strangers. They called family members they had not spoken to in years. They looked up at the sky and waited. Some prayed. Some cried. But most of them simply stood together and refused to be afraid. High Arbiter Zetox sat on his throne aboard the Valorian flagship and counted the minutes. He had done this many times before. He had watched countless species crumble under the weight of his ultimatum. Some begged. Some tried to negotiate. A few tried to run. But in the end, they all broke. That was the nature of lesser beings. They feared death more than they loved anything else. When the 6 hours ended, Zetox opened a channel to Earth. He expected to see broken humans ready to surrender. He expected tears and pleading. He expected the usual pathetic display that all species showed when facing extinction. What he saw instead confused him. The transmission showed the steps of the United Nations building in Geneva. Admiral Katie Sullivan stood at a podium. Behind her were hundreds of people. World leaders, military officers, scientists, artists, ordinary citizens. They stood shoulder to shoulder, filling the plaza and spilling into the streets beyond. And they were not crying. They were not afraid. They were smiling. High Arbiter Zetox, Sullivan began. Her voice was calm and clear. On behalf of the United Earth Council and all human beings across the solar system, I am here to deliver our response to your ultimatum. Zetox leaned forward slightly. This was the moment. The moment when humanity would break. Sullivan lifted a piece of paper. This is a formal declaration from the people of Earth. I will read it now. She cleared her throat and began. To the Velorian hegemony and all who serve under their banner. We have received your demand for surrender. We have considered it carefully. And our answer is no. We will not surrender our world. We will not surrender our freedom. We will not surrender our children to slavery. You have told us that resistance is impossible. You have told us that we will be erased. You have told us to choose wisely. She paused and looked directly into the camera. We have chosen. We choose to fight. We choose to stand. We choose to die on our feet rather than live on our knees. You think you know what humans are capable of. You are wrong. You think fear will break us. It will not. We have faced extinction before. We have stared into the darkness many times. And every time, we have refused to look away. So come. If you dare. Bring your 800 ships. Bring your ancient weapons. Bring everything you have. Because you will need it. We are humans. And we do not surrender. The crowd behind her erupted in cheers. The sound was deafening. It echoed across the plaza and up into the sky where satellites carried it to every corner of the solar system. On the Vanguard, Danny Morrison and his crew watched the broadcast. Ryan Peters was crying openly now, but he was grinning like a madman. Chris Yamamoto stood straighter than he had in days. But then something unexpected happened. Something that would change the course of history. Admiral Sullivan started to laugh. It was not a nervous laugh. It was not a crazy laugh. It was the deep, genuine laugh of someone who had found joy in the darkest moment. And it spread. The people behind her started laughing too. The sound rippled through the crowd like a wave. Soon the entire plaza was filled with laughter. Millions of people across Earth joined in. They laughed in their homes and in the streets and in the shelters where they waited for bombs that might never fall. The laughter traveled across space. It reached every Velorian ship. The aliens listened in confusion. They had conquered hundreds of species. They had heard screaming and begging and silence. But they had never heard this. They had never heard a species laugh at its own destruction. On the flagship, Zetox's advisor exchanged worried looks. The war priests who guided Velorian strategy stepped forward. They were ancient and wise, and they had seen many strange things in their long lives. But this was new. High Arbiter, the eldest priest said carefully, these humans are not behaving normally. Our models predicted fear. We expected surrender. This is something else. Something we have not encountered before. These humans. We have not encountered before. Zetox waved his hand dismissively. They are simply mad. Fear has broken their minds. Perhaps, the priest said. But our records show that humans have survived many extinction events. They are unusually resistant to despair. When other species would give up, humans fight harder. This laughter may be a sign of something dangerous. What could be dangerous about laughter? Zetox asked coldly. The priest hesitated. It shows they are not afraid. A species that does not fear death is unpredictable. They may do things that seem illogical. They may sacrifice themselves in ways we cannot anticipate. He recommends we attack immediately, before they can prepare any surprises. Zetox considered this. But his pride was strong. He had crushed 1,000 worlds. He would not be rushed by some primitive species that did not know enough to be afraid. No, he said finally. Let them have their laughter. Let them have their hope. It will make their defeat more complete. We will attack when I decide. Not before. The war priest bowed and stepped back. On the Vanguard, Danny Morrison turned to his chief engineer. Her name was Laura Kim, and she was the smartest person he had ever met. She was also hiding something. He had seen it in her eyes for weeks now. A secret project she had been working on. A desperate idea she had not been ready to share. Laura. He said quietly. You told me once that you had something. Something experimental. Something that might change everything. Is it ready? Laura looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. It is a new kind of energy capacitor system, she said. It can store and amplify power far beyond anything we have built before. If we connect it to our weapons, we could hit 10 times harder than normal. Maybe more. Maybe more. Danny felt his heart beat faster. Why have you not told anyone? Because it is untested, Laura said. Because it might not work. Because if we push too hard, it could tear the ship apart. I did not want to give false hope. Danny thought about the 800 enemy ships. He thought about Earth. He thought about the laughter still echoing in his ears. Start the preparations, he said. We do not need false hope. We just need a chance. Laura nodded and headed for engineering. Behind her, the crew of the Vanguard began to work with new energy. They had heard their admiral laugh at death. Now they were ready to do the same. The Valorians wanted a surrender. What they got was laughter. And soon, they would understand why that was the most dangerous sound in the galaxy. The next 4 hours were a blur of desperate activity. Every human in the solar system worked toward the same goal. It did not matter if you were a soldier or a scientist, a politician or a plumber. Everyone had a job to do. Everyone knew the stakes. And everyone understood that these might be the last hours of human history. On Earth, factories that had been shut down for years roared back to life. They built weapons and supplies and anything else that might help. Thousands of cargo ships launched from the surface, carrying food and medicine and ammunition to the defense fleet. Volunteers flooded military bases, begging for a chance to fight. Many were turned away because there were not enough ships to hold them. Some cried. Most simply found another way to help. Admiral Sullivan worked without rest. She coordinated the defense network from her command center in Geneva. Giant screens covered the walls, showing the positions of every ship, every satellite, every piece of equipment in the system. Her eyes were red from exhaustion, but her voice never wavered. When officers brought her problems, she solved them. When they brought her doubts, she dismissed them. There was no room for doubt today. The planetary shield network was humanity's last line of defense. Massive generators on the surface and in orbit created an invisible barrier around Earth. The shields could stop weapons, fear and debris and even small ships. But they could not stop everything. Sullivan knew the math. Against 800 Valorian warships, the shields would last maybe 30 minutes, maybe less. After that, nothing would protect the people below. She needed the fleet to buy time. Every minute they could hold the enemy back was another minute for evacuation ships to escape. Another minute for humanity to survive somewhere else. She tried not to think about the fact that only a handful of ships would make it. She tried not to think about who would live and who would die. There would be time for grief later. If there was a later. On the Vanguard, Laura Kim worked miracles in engineering. The experimental capacitor system was not meant to be installed so quickly. It should have taken weeks of careful preparation. She had hours. But Laura was not ordinary. She had been designing ships since she was 12 years old. She knew every wire and circuit in the Vanguard like she knew her own heartbeat. Her team of 30 engineers followed their instructions without question. They tore apart secondary systems to get the power they needed. They rewired entire sections of the ship. They welded and bolted and prayed that nothing would explode. Sparks flew constantly. The air smelled like burning metal and sweat. We need more power, Laura said for the 10th time. The capacitors are only at 60%. We need at least 90 to make any real difference. Danny Morrison stood behind her, watching. Everything, Laura said. We have already taken power from weapons standby, secondary sensor, and half the lights. But it is not enough. She paused. We could shut down life support on the lower decks. That would give us another 15%. Danny did not hesitate. Do it. Move everyone to the upper decks. Issue environmental suit. The order went out. Within an hour, the lower third of the Vanguard was dark and cold. Crew members packed into the remaining space like sardines. They wore heavy suits that would keep them alive without heat or air. Nobody complained. They understood. Lieutenant Megan Torres worked at the tactical station on the bridge. She had spent weeks studying the solar system, mapping every rock and piece of debris that floated in space. Now she used that knowledge to plan the battle. She marked asteroids that could be used as cover. She identified spots where the Valorian formation would be forced to spread thin. She calculated firing angles and escape route and 100 other details that might mean the difference between life and death. Commander, she said to Danny when he returned to the bridge. I have a plan. It is not a good plan. But it might give us a chance. Danny looked at her screens. Sure. Megan explained. The Valorians would expect a direct attack. They would expect humans to charge at them and die gloriously. Instead, Megan wanted to fight dirty. She wanted to use the solar system itself as a weapon. Asteroids could be pushed into enemy formations. Satellites could be converted into bombs. The debris from destroyed ships could be directed into enemy flight paths. It would not win the battle, but it would make the enemy pay for every inch. Danny smiled for the first time in days. Do it. Coordinate with the other ships. In the medical bay, Dr. Ben Carter prepared for hell. He had converted cargo bays into emergency hospitals. He had gathered every doctor and nurse on the ship. He had stockpiled painkillers and bandage and surgical tools. It would not be enough. He knew that. In a battle like this, there would be more wounded than he could possibly save. He would have to choose who lived and who died. The thought made him sick. But he pushed the feeling down and kept working. How bad will it be? His young assistant asked quietly. Ben looked at her. She was barely 22 years old. She had joined the medical corps to help people. She had never seen a real battle. He wanted to lie to her. He wanted to tell her everything would be fine. But she deserved the truth. Bad, he said simply. Worse than anything you can imagine. People will die in front of you. People you cannot save. You will feel helpless and angry and afraid. But you will keep working. Because that is what we do. We save who we can. We remember who we cannot. And we do not give up. She nodded slowly, her face pale but determined. Hours passed. The capacitors climbed slowly toward full power. 70%. 75%. 80%. Laura Kim did not sleep. She ran from station to station, fixing problems before they became disasters. Her hands were burned from hot machinery. Her eyes were blurred from exhaustion. But she kept moving. Ryan Peters at the communication station intercepted Valorian transmission. The aliens were talking about humanity like they were already dead. They were betting on how quickly Earth would fall. They were dividing up the planet's resources among themselves. Some laughed at the human fleet, calling them insects. Ryan shared the transmissions with the crew. Danny expected it to break their spirits. Instead, it made them angry. Good, he thought. Angry was better than afraid. The deadline came and went. The Valorians did not attack immediately. They were waiting, savoring the moment. It was a mistake. Every minute they delayed gave Laura more time. 85%. 90%. 95%. Then the Valorian fleet began to move. Laura's voice came over the intercom, tight with exhaustion but steady. Capacitors at 98%. We are still climbing. Just need a few more minutes. Danny looked at the display. The red dots were advancing. Time was running out. You heard her, he said to his crew. Buy her those minutes. Whatever it takes. The Vanguard surged forward to meet the enemy. The final stand had begun. The first shots lit up the darkness like angry stars. Valorian weapons were plasma-based, designed to melt through metal and vaporize flesh. They had burned 1,000 worlds to ash. Now they turned toward Earth's defenders with terrible purpose. Commander Danny Morrison gripped the arms of his command chair as the Vanguard shook from the force of nearby explosions. On the display, he watched the battle unfold in brutal clarity. 63 human ships against 800 enemy vessels. It should have been over in minutes. But humans did not fight the way the Valorians expected. The destroyer USS Liberty was the first human ship to fall. But she did not go quietly. Her captain, a woman named Patricia Steele, had served in the fleet for 30 years. She knew her ship was dying. She knew her crew was dying. So she made a choice. Instead of trying to escape, she aimed her burning vessel at the nearest Valorian cruiser and pushed the engines beyond their limits. The collision was spectacular. Both ships vanished in a ball of nuclear fire that damaged 3 other enemy vessels. Danny watched the explosion on his screen and felt his heart clench. Patricia Steele had just killed herself and her entire crew to take down one enemy ship. It was insane. It was wasteful. It was exactly what the Valorians never expected. All ships, Danny said into the fleet channel, fight smart. But if you are going down, take as many of them with you as possible. Make them pay for every drop of human blood. The response came not in words but in action. Across the battlefield, human ships began fighting with desperate creativity. Some used themselves as shields to protect damaged allies. Others rammed enemy vessels when their weapons failed. A few simply kept firing until their reactors exploded, timing the detonation to maximize enemy casualties. The frigate Constellation held a narrow passage between 2 large asteroids. Air Captain Tommy Price knew the spot was perfect for defense. The Valorians could only approach from one direction. For 19 minutes, the Constellation held that choke point against dozens of attackers. She destroyed 11 enemy ships before finally being overwhelmed. When her reactor went critical, Tommy Price broadcast one final message to the fleet. "See you on the other side, friends. Give them hell." Then he was gone. Captain Scott Reyes led a squadron of 20 fighters in an attack on the Valorian flagship. His pilots were young and afraid. But they followed him without hesitation. They knew the flagship's shields were strong. They knew most of them would not survive. But if they could weaken those shields even slightly, it might give the larger ships a chance. They dove through a storm of enemy fire. Fighters exploded around Scott like fireworks. He lost count of his dead pilots. 5, 10, 15. But he kept pushing forward. His own ship took it after it. Warning alarms screamed in his ears. Blood ran down his face from a wound on his forehead. When he finally reached the flagship, only 3 fighters remained from his squadron of 20. They unleashed everything they had against the shield generators. Missiles and laser fire and pure human fury. The shields flickered and sparked. They did not fall completely. But they weakened. Scott's last transmission was brief. "Shields at 70%. That is the best I can do. Finish the job, Commander." Then his fighter vanished in a flash of light. On the Vanguard. The situation was growing desperate. The ship had taken multiple hits. Entire decks were on fire or exposed to space. Half the crew was dead or wounded. The corridors were filled with smoke and screaming and the terrible sounds of a ship breaking apart. Chris Yamamoto saved Danny's life when a console exploded near the captain's chair. He pushed Danny aside and took the shrapnel himself. The jagged metal tore through his shoulder and chest. He fell to the deck, gasping. "Chris!" Danny knelt beside his friend. Blood was everywhere. Chris' face was pale and twisted with pain. But he was still conscious. He grabbed Danny's arm with surprising strength. "Keep fighting," Chris whispered. "Do not stop for me. We are too close." Danny wanted to argue. He wanted to carry his friend to medical. But he knew Chris was right. There was no time for anything but the mission. He squeezed Chris' hand once. Then stood up. "Get him to Dr. Carter," he ordered the nearest crew member. "And someone take over the EXO station." The battle raged on. Human ships fell one by one. 40 remaining. 30. 20. Each loss was a dagger in Danny's heart. These were his friends. His comrades. His people. And they were dying so that Earth could live. Admiral Sullivan watched from the surface. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice remained steady as she coordinated the defense. The planetary shields were holding for now. Evacuation ships were escaping through the gaps in the enemy formation. Millions of people were being saved because of the fleet's sacrifice. But it was not enough. It would never be enough. Commander, Laura Kim's voice came through the intercom. It was ragged with exhaustion but filled with something else. Hope. Capacitors at 100%. Full power available. Danny felt a surge of energy rush through him. This was it. The moment everything had been building toward. He opened a channel to the entire fleet and to Earth itself. He wanted everyone to hear what came next. This is Commander Danny Morrison of the USS Vanguard. The Valorians demanded our surrender. We refused. They told us resistance was impossible. We proved them wrong. They thought fear would break us. But we are not afraid. He paused, looking at his crew. They were bleeding and burned and exhausted. But their eyes were bright with determination. Humans have a saying. Danny continued. It is not over until it is over. And this is not over yet. All remaining ships focus fire on the flagship. Target the weakened shields. Create an opening. The human fleet responded instantly. The surviving ships turned towards the massive Valorian flagship and unleashed everything they had. The shields that Scott Reyes had weakened flickered under the combined assault. We have an opening, Megan Torres reported. Shields down to 30% in Sector 7. It is not much, but it is something. Danny smiled grimly. It is enough. Helm, take us in. Maximum speed. The Vanguard surged forward. Behind her, the few remaining human ships formed a protective wall, buying her precious seconds. Zetox watched from his throne as the broken human vessel charged toward him. He felt something he had not felt in centuries. Doot. Destroy that ship, he commanded. Hundreds of weapons turned toward the Vanguard. But it was too late. Laura Kim's voice echoed through the ship one final time. All systems ready, Commander. Just give the word. Danny Morrison looked at the enemy flagship filling his screen. He thought about Earth. About Chris. About Patricia Steele and Tommy Price and Scott Reyes and all the others who had died to bring him to this moment. Fire everything, he said. And the universe turned white. The light was blinding. The Vanguard's experimental weapons discharged in a cascade of pure energy that tore through space like the fury of an angry god. The blast struck the Valorian flagship's weakened shields and punched straight through. Metal melted. Systems explode. High Arbiter Zetox had exactly 1 second to understand what was happening before his throne room became a tomb. The flagship split apart in a spectacular explosion that lit up the solar system. The shockwave rippled outward, damaging dozens of nearby enemy vessels. Debris flew in every direction. The command structure of the Valorian fleet vanished in an instant. But Laura Kim's genius did not stop at weapons. The same capacitor system that powered the attack also boosted the Vanguard's transmission array. Every camera on the ship was recording. Every sensor was broadcasting. The signal punched through Valorian, jamming and spread across the galaxy at faster than light speed. Billions of beings watched what happened next. They watched a single broken human ship, burning and barely functional, refuse to die. They watched 63 vessels challenge an empire of 800. They watched humans laugh at death and spit in the face of impossible odds. And something changed. The Valorian fleet fell into chaos without its high arbiter. Zetox had ruled through fear and absolute authority. Without him, there was no clear chain of command. Captains argued over who should take charge. Some ships began retreating. Others continued fighting but without coordination. The precise machine of the hegemony became a confused mess. Then the real miracle began. The Valorian fleet was not entirely Valorian. Like all empires built on conquest, the hegemony used enslaved species to fill their ships. These beings had been forced to serve for generations. They had forgotten what freedom felt like. They had accepted that resistance was impossible. But now they had seen something new. They had seen humans resist. They had seen humans laugh. They had seen a tiny fleet challenge the masters of the galaxy and draw blood. On arrendre Velorian ships, the enslaved crews began to revolt. The Kirati, a species that had served the hegemony for 3,000 years, were the first. Their warriors rose up and seized control of their ships' weapons. Then the Molvari joined them. Then the Trexians. Then others whose names humanity would learn later. Within hours, the Velorian fleet had collapsed into civil war. Ships that had been hunting humans were now fighting each other. Some captains tried to flee toward hegemony space. Others surrendered to the human fleet. A few kept fighting against both humans and their former slaves. Danny Morrison watched from the Vanguard's ruined bridge. The ship was barely holding together. Life support was failing. Most systems were offline. But they were still alive. Somehow. Impossibly. They were still alive. Commandé, Ryan Peters said weakly from his station. He was wounded but still working. We are receiving transmissions from all over the system. The enemy is falling apart. Multiple Velorian ships are surrendering. Others are retreating. Danny could not believe what he was hearing. What about Earth? Safe, sir. The planetary shields held. Evacuation ships are returning. Admiral Sullivan is requesting contact. Un moment later, Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the screen. She looked older than she had just hours ago. Her eyes were red and tired. But she was smiling. It was a broken, exhausted smile, but it was real. Commander Morrison, she said. What you did, today, will never be forgotten. Humanity owes you a debt that can never be repaid. Danny shook his head slowly. It was not just me. It was all of us. Every ship. Every crew member. Every person on Earth who refused to give up. We won because we fought together. Sullivan nodded. Get your ship home, Danny. You have earned some rest. The journey home took 3 days. The Vanguard limped through space on backup power, escorted by a handful of surviving human ships and, strangely, several vessels crewed by former hegemony slaves. The Kirati captain who led them sent a simple message to Danny. We saw you laugh at death. We want to learn how. On Earth, the celebrations had already begun. News of the victory spread across the planet like wildfire. People danced in the streets. Strangers hugged each other. The fear and despair of the past weeks transformed into wild, disbelieving joy. They had faced extinction and survived. They had stared into the abyss and the abyss had blinked. When the Vanguard finally reached Earth orbit, thousands of small ships came out to greet her. They formed a corridor of honor for the battered vessel. Danny stood on what remained of his bridge and watched through the cracked viewports. He had never seen anything so beautiful. Chris Yamamoto was alive. Dr. Carter had saved him, though he would need months of recovery. Laura Kim was already talking about rebuilding the ship with better systems. Megan Torres was being offered command of her own vessel. They had lost so much, but they had also gained something that could never be taken away. The funerals came later. Thousands of names were read aloud. Patricia Steele, Tommy Price, Scott Reyes, and so many others. Each name was a story. Each name was a sacrifice. Humanity would remember them forever. In the months that followed, the galaxy changed in ways no one had predicted. The Velorian hegemony fractured and fell apart. Without Zetok's iron grip, the Empire crumbled into dozens of independent factions. The enslaved species rose up everywhere, inspired by what they had witnessed. A new era was beginning. Earth became a symbol of resistance throughout the galaxy. Delegations from 100 worlds arrived seeking alliance and friendship. They wanted to know how humans had done it. They wanted to understand these strange species that laughed at death and fought when all hope was lost. Danny Morrison retired to a small house in Montana. He had seen enough war. He wanted peace and quiet and the simple pleasure of watching the sun rise over the mountains. Sometimes late at night, he would look up at the stars and think about all the friends he had lost. He would raise a glass in their honor and whisper their names to the wind. Chris visited him often. They would sit on the porch and talk about old times. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they cried. But they never forgot what they had been through together. One evening, Chris asked Danny a question that had been bothering him for months. Do you think it was worth it? All the death. All the sacrifice. Was it worth it? Danny thought for a long time before answering. He thought about the slaves who were now free. He thought about the children on Earth who would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was respected instead of ignored. He thought about the message they had sent to every tyrant in the universe, that humans do not break easily. Yes, he said finally. It was worth it. Not because we won. But because we stood up. Because we showed the galaxy what we are. Because when they demanded surrender, we laughed and recharged for one final stand. Chris smiled and raised his glass. To those who fell. Danny raised his own. And to those who remember. They drank in silence as the stars wheeled overhead. Somewhere out there, on distant worlds, beings who had been slaves were now free. Somewhere out there, tyrants were learning to fear the sound of human laughter. And somewhere out there, the legacy of the Vanguard and her crew lived on. The war was over. But the story of humanity was just beginning.